You know the standard ghost story about artificial intelligence? We've all heard it 1,000 times by now.
Oh, yeah. The robots are coming.
The robots are coming, and they're coming for the front line. For the call center agents, the data entry clerks, maybe the interns.
Right. There's this image of the bottom of the org chart getting automated away.
Well, the senior managers sit safely in their glass offices, totally immune because their jobs require strategy or people skills.
It's a very comforting narrative, isn't it? Especially for leadership. The idea that management is this purely human art form that code can't touch.
Exactly. Like there's a magic barrier around the boardroom. But that narrative creates a massive blind spot.
A huge one.
And that's why today's deep dive is, well, it might keep you up at night. We're digging into the work of Johan Steyn, specifically his analysis of AI and the new politics of power.
And his take is just. It's not what you'd expect. He argues the most disruptive shift is not landing at the bottom of the ladder at all.
No, it's landing right in the middle.
Yes, with the concept of the algorithmic manager. And to be clear, Steyn isn't talking about a robot answering the phone. He's talking about software.
Software that does what? Exactly.
Software that takes over the very essence of management. Things like allocating tasks, monitoring progress, evaluating performance.
And even deciding who gets promoted or fired.
Exactly.
Which sounds like something straight out of science fiction. But as we dug into the source material, you realize the infrastructure for this is already here.
It's already being built. Steyn's central thesis is that as these management tasks become software, organizations are facing a massive power shift they are completely unprepared for.
And it's not humans versus machines in the, classic sense. He calls it humans versus the reallocation of authority.
And that phrase is the absolute key. Our mission today isn't to fearmonger about Skynet. This is about the politics of the workplace.
Right. What happens to the power dynamic when an algorithm starts making decisions that used to define a manager's whole career?
Because when authority moves from a person to a server, everything changes.
So, to get our heads around this, we first need to define what management actually is.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the boss.
No, and Steyn breaks it down into two distinct layers, which I found really helpful.
Okay, what are they?
He separates it into coordination and legitimacy. Coordination is the machinery of work.
So, the schedules, the workflows, compliance checklists.
All the logistics.
Yeah.
Keeping the trains running on time.
The administrative overhead that makes you groan when you see it on your calendar.
Precisely. But then there's the second layer, legitimacy. And this is the deeply human element.
Okay, so that's the judgment, the context.
Building relationships, building trust. It's the ability to persuade a team to do something difficult, not just enforce a rule.
It's why you follow a good boss into a fire.
Exactly. It's the social capital that makes all the coordination even possible.
Okay, so coordination and legitimacy. Now, technology has always been involved in the coordination side, right? This isn't entirely new.
For sure. For the last 20 years, we've had dashboards, CRMs, ticketing systems.
JRA, Trello, all that.
Right. But here's the critical distinction. Those tools were passive. They just reported on what happened.
They gave you the data, the spreadsheet, and then said, okay, manager, you decide what to do with this. The agency was still with the human.
The spreadsheet didn't fire anyone. It just showed you the numbers. But the shift Steyn identifies, and this is where it gets really sticky, is that AI doesn't just report anymore.
It's not passive.
No. This is the leap from tooling to authority. AI interprets language. It analyzes behavior at scale. It doesn't just show you sales figures. It might summarize the meeting where you discuss them.
It flags deviations, predicts outcomes.
And that brings us to the danger zone. The source material highlights a very specific transition point.
What's that?
It says, if the system can tell you what to do, how well you did it, and what should happen next. It is not merely supporting managers. It is beginning to manage.
Wow, that's the whole ballgame.
That is the crux of the issue. A reporting dashboard doesn't decide who gets hired. A task board doesn't recommend discipline.
But AI can. It converts messy, complex human activity into scores and rankings.
And once you have a score, you have a basis for a decision. And if the machine provides the score and the recommendation, the human manager's role starts to evaporate.
And Steyn calls this seductive. I love that word choice.
It is seductive. If you're a leader under pressure to do more with less, And a vendor says their software can automate middle management decisions and optimize your workforce by 20%.
You're going to listen. Of course you are.
It promises hyper-efficiency. No more bias, no bad days, just pure data-driven optimization.
But underneath, it's a tectonic shift. You're moving from human judgment to algorithmic output.
And that triggers what Steyn identifies as the four tensions.
Let's dive into these because this is where the rubber really meets the road. The first tension is autonomy.
And this creates a real identity crisis for managers. See, most managers accept accountability. If the team fails, it's on them. That's the deal.
You get the big title, you take the blame.
But in exchange for that, they've always had the autonomy to decide how to achieve the results.
Right. Don't tell me how to cook the dinner, just judge the meal. My team might operate differently than yours, but as long as we hit the numbers, we're good.
Exactly. But now imagine an AI tool that sets the daily priorities for your team. It defines what good looks like. It tracks every minute.
Suddenly the manager isn't a leader anymore.
They're a conduit, a messenger, just passing along instructions from the software to the humans.
That sounds miserable. You're the person who delivers the pizza, but you didn't make it and you didn't decide on the toppings.
And that threatens the core identity of the role.
Yeah.
What's your value add if the algorithm is telling you who to assign to which task based on their past efficiency scores?
You're just a human in the loop.
Which leads perfectly into the second tension, status.
Ah, yes. The thing we don't like to talk about, power.
Because middle management is where a lot of organizational power actually lives. And a lot of it is informal.
It's who gets visibility on a big project, who gets the opportunity to lead a new initiative, who gets protected when things go wrong.
And those decisions are often based on, well, vibes, intuition, a little bit of office politics. It's discretionary.
And that discretion is a form of currency. It makes people respect you.
It's discretionary influence, the ability to cut someone some slack. Hey, I know you were late. Don't worry about it. Just make it up later. That builds a bond.
Okay, but if AI standardizes all that, if it automatically logs the tardiness or picks the project leader based on data,
then that discretionary influence is gone.
Now, playing devil's advocate for a second, isn't that a good thing? No more teacher's pet? It could reduce bias, right?
Theoretically, yes.
Yeah.
And Steyn acknowledges that. But here's the catch. Even if it's fairer in a data sense, it creates massive resistance.
Because people are losing power.
You're redistributing authority from the manager to the machine. And people rarely give up power without a fight.
It changes the whole currency of the workplace. You can't kiss up to an algorithm.
Not in the same way, no.
Okay, let's talk about the third tension, because this one, actually, it's a little scary. Accountability. Steyn calls it the moral escape hatch.
This is one of the most dangerous aspects ethically. Imagine an AI system recommends a firing, or it generates a low performance rating for someone. Who is responsible?
Well, it should be the manager, right? They're the ones sitting in the room with the employee.
It should be. But the temptation, the escape hatch, is for the manager to just shrug and say,
Look, the system said so. My hands are tied.
it's the algorithm.
Yeah.
Oof. It's the modern version of, I'm just following orders.
But it's worse because the computer is supposed to be this objective mathematical truth.
It's an abdication of leadership. Steyn says organizations have to decide very explicitly, are managers accountable for outcomes or just for enforcing machine outputs?
Because if they're just enforcing outputs, they're not managers. They're police for a robot.
And if they're accountable, they have to have the power to override the machine. You can't be held responsible for a decision you weren't allowed to make.
Which flows right into the fourth tension. Trust. This is the big one for culture.
This is where the human element really clashes with the data element.
Steyn makes a brilliant distinction here between consistency and fairness. We often use those words interchangeably.
But they're not the same. Not at all. AI is incredibly consistent. It'll apply the same rules to everyone, every time. It doesn't have bad days.
But consistency is not the same as fairness. Can you break that down?
Sure. Think about all the invisible work we do. Helping a colleague who's struggling. Diffusing a conflict between two teams before it blows up.
Or just having a bad week because your kid is sick. Life happens.
Exactly. And AI rewards the measurables. It captures response times, lines of code, sales calls made. It misses the meaningful. It can't understand empathy or context.
So if the algorithm sees your productivity drop because you spent 3 hours helping a junior employee,
it just marks you down as inefficient. It consistently applies the rule, low output equals bad worker. But that isn't fair.
So as an employee, I know I'm being managed by a score that ignores all the actual human stuff.
You optimize for the metric. You stop doing the helpful, invisible work because the system doesn't reward it. You just focus on feeding the algorithm what it wants.
You game the system.
And that destroys trust. It turns the workplace into a video game where you're just farming points instead of actually achieving the mission.
Wow. Okay, so for all this to work, the AI needs something. It needs data, a lot of data.
Which brings us to what Steyn calls the quiet issue, surveillance creep.
To manage like this, the algorithms need, well, they're voracious. They need to know everything.
Response times, meeting behavior, who spoke the most, what was the sentiment in your tone. They look at keystrokes, mouse movement.
It's not just did you clock in, it's how did you feel when you clocked in. It's incredibly invasive.
It is. And even if the company's intent is benign, we want to prevent burnout, the cultural impact is the same.
An always-on workplace, you feel watched.
And we know that psychological safety is the bedrock of high-performing teams. You can't have that if you feel like Big Brother is analyzing your Slack messages for negative sentiment.
It forces people to perform work rather than just do work. You have to look busy for the sensor.
Exactly.
So this is a pretty bleak picture. 4 tensions, creeping surveillance. But Steyn doesn't just leave us there. He outlines some paths forward.
He does. For business leaders, he poses a philosophical choice. Are you buying AI to make your managers better? Or are you buying it to make management more controllable?
Those are 2 very different goals. One is empowerment, the other is policing.
And if you push for control, you might gain efficiency in the short term. But you lose legitimacy. And losing legitimacy is expensive.
Disengagement, turnover.
The cost of replacing trust is infinitely higher than the cost of a software license.
What about for HR? This sounds like a legal nightmare.
HR becomes the governance layer. Steyn says there must be appeal processes. If an algorithm impacts someone's career, there has to be a way to challenge it.
You can't just have computer says no.
No. And HR needs to define the line between advisory and authority. Does the AI advise the manager, or does it have the authority to make a decision? That has to be a clear policy.
And for the managers listening right now, feeling a little threatened, what's their survival guide?
Lean into the things the AI cannot do. Coaching, context, conflict resolution, building meaning.
The legitimacy side of the equation.
Yes, let the AI do the admin, the drudgery. You focus on credibility. The definition of a thriving manager in this world is someone who can explain decisions, not just enforce them.
If you can only do what the dashboard tells you, you're obsolete.
But if you can synthesize that data with human empathy, you're irreplaceable.
There was also a really crucial point about regional context, specifically mentioning South Africa. Why was that so important?
It's a vital nuance. Steyn notes that in markets like South Africa, labor relations and social trust are often already fragile. There's a history of tension and inequality.
So the baseline of trust is already low.
Exactly. So in that environment, this isn't just a tech issue, it's a combustible workplace relations issue. If you trap a surveillance-heavy algorithm into a low-trust environment,
It's immediately seen as a weapon, a tool of oppression.
it destroys legitimacy instantly. You cannot just copy-paste a Silicon Valley management algorithm into a context with complex historical labor dynamics.
Context is king.
Absolutely.
So let's wrap this up. We've covered a lot. The shift to authority, the 4 tensions, the risks. What's the one core takeaway for our listeners?
That AI will change tasks, but the deeper disruption is about control. The real winners won't be the companies that automate the fastest.
They'll be the ones that redesign management thoughtfully.
Meaning they use AI to strip away the admin, but they double down on human judgment and transparency. As the source says, efficiency matters, but without legitimacy, it rarely lasts.
That's a powerful line. Efficiency without legitimacy rarely lasts, like a high-speed train on rotting tracks.
It sums it up perfectly.
I want to leave our listeners with a final thought to mull over. Next time you're at work, think about your own performance. Are you trying to impress your boss, the human? Or are you maybe subconsciously trying to impress the data set that tells your boss what to think?
That's a haunting question.
Look for the invisible parts of your job, the things that algorithm would miss. That's where your real value might be hiding.
And that's what you need to protect.
That's all for today's deep dive into the algorithmic manager. Thanks for listening, and good luck outsmarting the dashboard.